Hey, everybody. Welcome to our third module of Travel Light 22 Days to Being Packed with Purpose. I am super excited about today. I know I said I was going to be delivering some truth bombs, so I, I will deliver on that. First, I just want to say great job, everybody, with sticking with this because there's a lot of programming here and it's kind of a lot of stuff. If you're 50 like me, you had a lot of fallacies and a lot of ways that you had letting society tell you what to do, right? So we've gone over false beliefs and unmasking our illusions as to like what our beliefs really are. They true to ourselves or were they made up of other people's beliefs? That was our first module. And then our second one, there was a lot with, predefined paths and personal pathways. Are we going to take the road less traveled, the one that we pave, or are we going to take one that, everyone else seems to think we should, or whatever the case? But it's a good examination of which paths did I take and how did that end up for me? And was it successful when I was making those choices autonomously, or was I better off with other people, and who are my authorities, things like that. And then, of course, risks equating to failure is definitely a mindset that we want to change, because a lot of times we will not take risks if we only think that they will be failing us, right? Sometimes our risks are amazing opportunities. So that brings us to the two topics we're talking about today, and that is unworthiness, feeling not good enough, and balance. And that is the truth bomb I'm going to set off today. So the truth bomb is that balance is like not a thing. It's not really something that you can, I don't think, achieve. Because if you look at the balance, the word balance rather, the word balance means like even, an even distribution of weight on both sides, so to speak. So like if I had a teeter-totter, this is my teeter-totter, and I put a pen on one side and a heavier pen on the other, the one with the heavy pen is obviously going to fall off, right? Or weigh down the lighter one until they're even. But that's not how it's going to be, because what if I have two pens on one side instead of one? Maybe not the best example. But I definitely wanted to talk about that because it's something that I find frustrating. Balance sounds like that it would be a place that would be like somewhere we want to find, right? But there's a huge myth of balance, and it's basically that it's an even distribution, right? And it is not. So we're going to talk about the idea of achieving balance in all aspects of life is a misconception. It is not about equal distribution, but understanding and recognizing that life's demands and priorities do ebb and flow over time. So to me, I was always trying to achieve balance, meaning I would have a certain amount of time set for work, a certain amount of time set for my kids, a certain amount of time set for me, a certain amount of time set for personal development or working out or something, right? So let's say, let's look at how did I come to that expectation, right? So I think that coming to that realization was because of life's kind of message and structure institutionally. That's a lot of big words, right? But if you think about it, like our education system in itself, like we go to school until we graduate high school, and then we go to college or a technical school, and we learn a skill. And then we go on to our career, and then we look at ongoing development in our career, but we kind of act like, okay, well, we became grown up, so now what? So in my generation, babies born in the 70s, especially early 70s, that was like the path. So you can see now how my predetermined path, or the pathway that I had, or the pathway that I took, led me to believe that balance was something that I could achieve, because I was going to do this, then this, then this, then this, and then this. And then I would check off boxes every day, right? And life isn't like that. Life isn't like go learn something, then go do it for the rest of your life. And I was listening to someone else, another coach today, and she was amazing. And she said something that really, really, really was like, ding, 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 ding. Deciding that you're going to learn everything and then go execute it and never have to learn more again is kind of a fantasy that life isn't like about lifelong learning. So if you've already embraced lifelong learning, I'm sorry if I'm repeating something you've already mastered a skill on, but I had not. So you either have to accept that you're in a place all the time of curiosity, like I may not know what I need to know right now to be an expert, but I can find out more information because I have a general knowledge of this and I have a general desire to learn and do and be that, or skill, or, person or description. But if we don't look at life like that, we feel like we failed when we do need to acquire a new skill or shift gears because we're out of balance. So, learning something new may help you balance out your life a little bit. Case in point. So I learned how to schedule like my to-do list to help me feel balanced. Actually, I'll go get my sheet. Hold on. I'm one of those people that could do 45 things at one time. And if you're like me, your to-do list is like, I don't know where to start. And I have all these things to do for other people, and I can't do anything for myself. And I would become like paralyzed, literally, like I have 50 things to do. I would like to do 50 different things for myself to make me feel better and fill up my cup so I can move on and, get some of these things accomplished, because I'm feeling so empty. So I was feeling like I was doing for other people and then not filling up my own cup. But my coach suggested that I use we got to get closer. Okay, I can't do it because of the focus on here. So what I wanted to talk to you about was that I then made categories: health, wealth, household, emotional, my happiness, business, and my next program. And I have 4 boxes. So I took a box, I made it health. The top left corner is high. The bottom left corner is low. On the bottom left corner is urgent, and on the bottom right corner is non-urgent. And then it's cut into 4 boxes. And I'm going to send you guys this for your homework. And in that, I have to say, this is a high priority, a low priority. It's either high or low. I have to get it done today, or I don't have to get it done today, is the second thing. Urgent or not urgent. So it's a high priority thing for me, but is it urgent? Meaning it has to be done right now. So health. Last week I had to get my blood work done. I had to get my blood work done so I could get my thyroid medication. Doctor won't prescribe thyroid medication without my levels, right? So I had to put that on a high priority and urgent to do, right? So you fill this all out. It says high, low, urgent, non-urgent, and then everything that's urgent and high, you put on your to-do list for that day, so that you don't feel like you're constantly chasing some high urgent priority, a high priority urgent task. That helped me stop the flow of chaos, because I was feeling like all chaos was coming at me. And then how did I achieve balance? I achieved balance by consciously choosing something that would help my emotional well-being and happiness, even though I didn't put it on a high priority or I didn't feel it was urgent, I felt better about adding that because I knew that all the high priority urgent things that could not wait were going to be taken care of because they were on my top list, and that I would be able to execute that list. And I had my list and I knew what to do. So that's one way that you can look at balance of, I may not be perfectly balanced, meaning the time I'm spending at work and the time I'm spending at home, or the time I'm spending with my kids, or the time I'm spending for myself in any like subject. You can make a category in any fashion. You can make categories for your business. And some of those categories could be cash generating activity. What are the things that you should do every day in your business that make you money? Should you be posting on the internet? Should you be making phone calls? Should you be sending emails? What are the things that every day you need to do to make cash? Those are high priority and very urgent things in my world for business. For wealth, a low priority or a non-urgent but high priority, let's say non-urgent, high priority thing for me is to call a financial planner. I haven't had a financial planning check-in in a long time. So knowing that I got my high priority and urgent things out of the way, like the cash generating activities I need to do for my business so that I can make money and feed my children, which is high priority, I'm able to schedule this financial planning appointment because I don't feel so pressured to get everything else done first. So it's not any longer an all or nothing mentality. Like balance is either you're balanced or you're not, because we look at that scale and we think it's got to be even. And that doesn't really live in our world, because we could strive for equal hours spent on work, family, and personal growth and development, things we want. But our dynamics of our life is, it totally requires a flexible approach to balance. And so I decided to really dig into this for myself and understand that most of the time where I'm feeling so irritable is that I am completely spending too much time on one thing. And I'm like, I want that thing that I'm dealing with at the moment where I'm getting crabby to get done. So I'm not even in the moment enjoying what I'm doing. And that's really hard for mindfulness, is I'm all over the place, right? So balancing is about recognizing that certain periods of time or your life or certain areas of your life might require more attention than another. And it's easy to get caught up in it. But if you can come up with some sort of system so that you feel balanced, like my organization tip, which is actually a concept and it's losing my memory, can't find it right now. And I'm going to send you the whole concept of it so that you can do it. But you might dedicate more time to your career at one point or your kids at another. But understanding that when that project is done, you can then kind of spend more time on something that you weren't able to for a while. And when balance is recognized as a certain period, sometimes things require more attention than another area, it's your ability to navigate in and out of it that helps you feel that you can make the shifts without feeling guilt or feeling like you're not enough. So feeling like you're not good enough and balance, they go together. Because when we're not in balance and we're spending all this time on one thing and we don't tell ourselves, it's okay right now, I'm just concentrating on this. So for example, a first year in business is very, very difficult. It's a lot of effort to make sure that this business gets off the ground and is viable and is successful. So I'm spending more time on that than I am, doing things in my home or the fall landscaping. But I know that I'll be able to get to that once I've been able to accomplish some more in my business. That this year might not be the year that I plant trees in my yard, that maybe I do that in the spring. And I have to be okay with that. I'm not failing because I postponed something. I'm postponing something so that it feels more in balance with what I have going on in my life. Because right now, if I add that project, I'm going to feel stressed out about money, and I'm going to be stressed out about time, and I'm going to be stressed out about having Julie here to mark for the undergrounds. I'm going to be stressed out about the landscapers coming and ruining my grass and watering and all that. So, like, should I bite that off right now? No, it will be more than I can chew. So, although it's not perfect, balance is just something that you kind of have to think of as a guideline. So, if you have a guideline of like, these are the things that I know I urgently must do, or they're high priority, or low priority, or low urgency, that you can put them in these buckets and you can decide which bucket you need to pick up today and go do. Because if you keep, because here's what can happen. This is a little off subject of balance, but I want to tell you how we get in our own mind. The fear of rejection and not being liked and not being good enough will get in the way of you doing the things that urgently need to be done that are high priority. Because there's a voice in your head that's going to talk you out of some of those things. And it's because of the fear of failure, and it's because of the fear of not being good enough, and it's because of fear. Okay. So I'm going to jump into this little 3-step process that I have. I'm going to be teaching it in another webinar, but for you guys, you get a bonus right now. The first thing to do with any emotion or any frustration or where you feel stuck is to do this. Assess all of your emotions and what's going on with your big decision making for fear. Because I had zero idea that the fear of not being good enough was hiding behind me not being in balance. And I was really blown away by the fact that fear could hide in your overconfidence. It can hide in excitement. It can hide in sadness. It can hide in so many other places. So if we're not dealing with the right emotion, or if we're not dealing with fear, we could be acting differently. So we must assess. That's step 1. Step 2 is to acknowledge. I acknowledge that right now I feel fearful of not being good enough because I have all of these things to do and I don't know what to do first. So I have so much to do that I feel like I failed because I now have all these things to do. Because we're going to say guilt will come in. Guilt, you're going to feel guilt that says, oh, I didn't do all the things I really should have done last week. But is guilt stopping you from doing like cash generated activities today? Is guilt stopping me from picking up a phone? Or is it the fear of rejection? So it's assess your emotions, acknowledge your fear, and then 3 is to take action despite of the fear. Once you've acknowledged the fear, you can decide what action you are able to take. And if it means you need another step and get your priorities and to-do list done, okay. But you have to take some sort of action based on your fear of rejection or failure or fear of whatever it is, not the emotion that you thought you were feeling like being overwhelmed, because being overwhelmed could cause different things than addressing your fear. So dealing with overwhelmed feeling is different than what you're going to do if you're dealing with your fear. So you can see how it would be a problem, right? Okay, so let's get back to balance and perfection now. That's going to be a great webinar. I hope you come. So balance, it sounds achievable, but really isn't, because it kind of like almost forces us into a corner of feeling like we're not good enough, because it is so hard to attain at any given moment. You're not going to find this perfect balance, right? Like we said, it's going to be more on other things and then others, but then we're going to move the teeter-totter around. So if you're feeling unworthy because you aren't good enough because you didn't get all this stuff done, how can you even get to the balance, right? So we continue, especially as women, to continue to strive for perfection. And that intensifies our feeling of not good enough, because if we can't even find balance, how are we going to get perfection? I mean, seriously. So embracing imperfection and understanding that they're part of this journey is the key to feeling less frustrated and feeling more like you're in balance. So let's say, okay, this is a big one for me. I'm a clean freak about my home. I love my home to be clean. Like, I have a cleaning lady that comes every 2 weeks. Before she comes, I straighten up. I am constantly trying to keep it like exactly the way she left it. And it isn't because I want a perfect life. It is because like I just love that. I love walking into a home and just it was clean and I don't have to do anything. I just taking to enjoy the space, right? So I then kind of like get cranky when somebody doesn't wipe off the counter or they leave crumbs on the floor, or I even get a little irritated with myself. Like, this negative self-talk doesn't have to be towards anybody else. It could be towards myself, right? So I'm trying to get this unattainable standard at all times, which is my house being clean, like it is when the cleaning lady comes. And then I'm thinking, okay, so if I'm trying to chase this all the time, I'm trying to chase perfection that's never going to happen. And then I'm trying to like make my kids act perfect in the house and they can't even enjoy the home, and neither can I. So releasing my need for having my home to be immaculate at all times allows me to focus on what truly matters without constantly chasing a need for perfection. And what truly matters is enjoying my home and spending time with my family in it with me. That's why we're here. If I was just simply coming in and sleeping in a bed and leaving, I could stay in a hotel, right? But this is a home. This is a big one too, because, your self-worth is tied into this of, feeling not good enough. And when you know your inherent worth, meaning that you're worthy regardless, like your worth is not contingent upon some outside achievement or comparison to say, like, you're worthy. So recognizing your inherent value, regardless of your accomplishments, is essential for your self-esteem, but understanding what other people value and what you value could be completely different things. And most of the time, we make our decisions based on what other people value or what we think other people value or what we value or think that they would value, right? So let's say, for example, we're going to use the one about my house being so immaculate, just like when the cleaning lady comes. So let's say I have company over and the cleaning lady came on Friday and it's now the following Thursday. So it's been 6 days. I've had a weekend. The house was lived in and I have company over and I didn't have a chance to run the vacuum or wipe my counters. And knowing that I kind of chase this perfect little clean house all the time, it's reasonable to say that I've ran a little vacuum and wiped the counters since 6 days ago, right? But yet when someone shows up at my door, I feel guilt before I even open the door, that my home doesn't look like the cleaning lady was just here. To me. But what if my guests never saw my house before the cleaning lady ever came to my house? What if they don't even know I have a cleaning lady? What if their idea of perfection is completely different than mine? What if their idea of perfection is that you can walk from the front door to the back door? I don't know. But if I feel guilt based on what I think someone else expects, I have a feeling that isn't like even about a real thing. That's a lot of energy to spend. And then let's say the guest comes and I open the door and I welcome them to my home. And the first thing I say is how messy my home is. And that person sees nothing like I see it. So your worth, your value is not contingent upon what other people think about you. It's not about what people think about what you've achieved or your accomplishments. Your self-esteem is more important than that, right? So acknowledging your worth as a human being isn't tied to your home being clean or your career title or your career path or your paycheck or anything that is a tangible thing. And it's really not tied to anything except your self-acceptance, your worth. The only thing that can place value on you is you. Like we can all say, okay, human lives are valuable. Yeah, absolutely. But how many billions of people are in the world, on the planet? They're all equally valued as humans, but differently valued in other countries. A man's value and a woman's value are totally different in a different country than America, right? So you have to decide your value before you let someone else dictate to you what your value is. That's how worthiness is settled for yourself, if that makes any sense. Because when we place our worthiness, our feeling of good enough, if that feeling of whether or not we're good enough is tied to a value that's one, unrealistic, and two, not of our own, how will we ever feel like we are worth it? Most of our value when it comes to other people's opinions is based on an outside picture or story of ourselves that we'd like to portray to them. Our ego, our not real person, not our true selves, not our highest being, not who we really are. What our subconscious is down there, the glacier picture. Everything is usually under the surface, but like what they see, the people that we're allowing to say what our value is, don't even see the real us. How do they know what we're worth? How do they know our value? They don't. So I urge you and encourage you that if you're not sure, if you're really understanding your own worth and value, your own worthiness, to go back, even to maybe module 1, and look at your false beliefs. Do you believe that having a clean and spotless house is the way to show everybody that you're a perfect woman? Come on, I just like it that way. I used to think it was some kind of like, this is perfect. It's not. It's what the person wants you to believe. And so maybe as a child, I thought a clean home meant you had a perfect family or perfect life. I don't know. But I don't feel like I have to go heal some kind of wound to realize that. I just realized that I love having my home clean, and people that come over here may or may not value that. And I have to be okay with it, that knowing that I value it, that I like it, and then I need to leave it there so that I don't bring in guilt, shame, unworthiness, and everything else tied to one thing. See how it can get so big? And it's so simple. Assess, acknowledge, act. I assess my fear. I assessed it. I have fear that somebody's going to think I'm not a good mom if my house isn't clean. I acknowledge that they may or may not think that way. I acknowledge the fear. I acknowledge the fear is only of my own. And I'm going to take an action and say, it's okay to have people at my house, even if it's 6 days after my cleaning lady came. Sometimes you don't even need step 2. You can skip to step 3 because what you say is so stupid that you know that you don't need to do this to yourself. Like, is it 100% true that my value is tied to whether or not my house is 100% clean and perfect? It is absolutely not. Anyway, moving right along, one of the ways that you can feel or empowered, I guess, one of the ways that you can navigate like balance and self-worth. There's a better way to say it. One great way to navigate self-worth and balance is to establish boundaries. This helps prioritize and allocate your time, which I was saying about the to-do list, and it prevents your overwhelm and fosters a feeling of control over your life. So when all else fails, boundaries, setting those and interweaving that with your to-do list. And hear me out. The reason why I say that you can set your boundaries with your to-do list or that process is because there are other people's requests in your groups, and other people's requests don't necessarily need to be urgent to you. They may be urgent to them, but you get to decide what kind of assistance or involvement you can be based on your other priorities and other urgent and high priority things that you need to do. So let's say like you do need to learn how to say no to like additional commitments when your plate is full, and it will ensure that you don't put too much on your own plate and that you're spreading yourself so thin that doing more is just going to create like it's not going to work, right? And it will help you promote your own balance. So if you're one of those people-pleasing people, that's a book. It's called The Disease to Please. It's a great book. But one tip, really quick tip from that is if somebody asks you to do something and you're really busy and you are the one that usually just says yes because you know you could get it done, but you say yes because you're so busy you can't look at your calendar, I'm going to give you a tip. I want you to do this. I want you to stop, look at the person, or stop what you're doing if you're on the phone, and directly say to them, let's say they invited you to dinner and you would love to go to dinner with this person and you're not sure if you can make the day and time, or you're feeling like, oh, that day and time might just be like too much for me. Like, I don't know. You can say this: I appreciate you thinking of me. I'd really love to have dinner with you. Would you let me check my calendar and get back to you by Friday? Because I'm just curious and afraid that I might have something that conflicts with the day and time you said. Would that hurt anybody's feelings? Would your disease to please like hurt because you didn't say no, you said, I need to evaluate my schedule, basically. And that's not a no. But let's say it's different and you are a people pleaser and you do want to say no, but you don't know how to say no. Someday you might get really blunt and be like, no, I'm unable to do that. But for those of you that are not or aren't sure like what it's like to say no, because you do the maybe thing and put somebody off for like days and days and days until it's just too late, you can't do it anymore. A better way to like make them feel heard and for you to not be avoiding something is to say, well, I do appreciate you thinking that I'd be able to do that. Meaning, let's say they asked you to do something you don't want to do, and it has to do with a task. They ask you to help them hang up a light fixture. I don't know. And you have very small skill, but you've done it before. You could do it, but you know that you don't have time, or you don't even really want to help this person because it would cause something else. I don't know. You can even use that to give yourself some space between the time that you're being asked and the time that you're going to give them a direct answer of, no, I'm unable to do that for you. Is to also say, thank you for thinking of me, or thank you for thinking I would be able to do that, or thank you for thinking I had the skill of hanging a light fixture. I do need to check my schedule because next week I have a lot going on. And it sounds like you'd like to get this done right away. Let me check my schedule and I'll call you back tomorrow. That way you can practice how you're going to tell them no. Listen, I really appreciate that you felt I had the skill to hang up a light fixture, but honestly, I did that one time and I'm just so nervous about doing it again. I don't want to mess up something in your home. I'm unable to say yes to that. Does that sound like the world's going to come to an end and you lose a friend because that's how you said no to helping them hang a light fixture? I mean, there's a million suggestions here, but either way, if you feel like I'm going to sweat a little bit and I don't know how to say no when my commitment, like when somebody's asking me to commit to something and my plate is full, I don't know how to do that, So I'm going to ask myself to be healthier and give myself some space. Okay. So one of the other ways to feel like you are good enough when you have this feeling of unworthiness or out of balance is some self-compassion. And self-compassion means treating yourself with kindness, especially during the times of challenge or when you're feeling like a failure. It just, it totally undoes the not good enough, like, feeling. So when you're kind to yourself about, okay, so let's say I set a goal today and that I want to call 50 people. And I had some other commitments today. And one of them ran a little bit later this morning, and it could have put me behind, right? And let's say it did. And I'm only going to make 30 calls today. So an unkind and uncompassionate and feeling not good enough voice drives home from work, or I, end my day usually when my son gets off the bus and I close my computer and kind of feel like yesterday. Oh my gosh, the perfect example. I did not get any of my content that I wanted to get done. I got a little bit of it done yesterday, but I wanted to wake up this morning with everything done, and I did not. So when at the end of the day yesterday, I felt like shitty. I was feeling unworthy. I was feeling like I wasn't good enough because I didn't get it done. So then at the end of the night, I said, why am I feeling this way? And I said to myself, okay, Brooke, I realize that you didn't get all your content done for today. However, you have a great start for tomorrow because you have all your ideas planned out. You have a path, you know what you want to do, and it will be easier for you tomorrow to just get right to work. And that's what I did. I felt like that when I woke up this morning. Had I stayed in what the heck? Like, you had all day Monday, you could have done a little bit of planning, and here we are on Tuesday, you're grasping at straws to get everything done. That's not self-compassion. That's not treating myself with kindness. All I'm doing is reinforcing, you're not good enough. You didn't get it done. But shit happens. Back to the balance, right? Balance isn't going to be this. It's going to be this, and then it's going to be this, and then it's going to be this. So we really have to, instead of berate ourselves, we have to be acknowledging that we all make mistakes and that we all, run out of time, and we all, have these issues. But what do we do better, right? And then the last part of this is really, well, there's two more parts of this, is really about understanding that fluidity of balance and self-worth. Like, you're never going to not feel like you're not good enough. I don't know if anybody could ever just like get that out of their heads until they're at a level of, I don't know, I guess you could be Donald Trump or somebody, and, really high powered person can feel that way maybe. But acknowledging and celebrating like small wins is one way that I love to just embrace like my own self-worth, and how I really felt that was important with my team, because it is hard to keep pushing that button and putting yourself out there and not feel like you're not good when you have put out all this effort and not received back what you're trying to get. So, for example, me, I put out a lot of social media content. I should be doing it twice a day. I should be doing 2 stories, 2 reels, 2 posts a day, and then 1 blog or newsletter a week and a podcast every week. I am not at that level. I'm definitely doing 1 a day, and sometimes I get 2 a day. I'm definitely doing a newsletter or a blog post, but I haven't gotten on podcasts yet. So I've done other speaking engagements, but you see how I'm balancing with, I haven't done this, but I have done this. I haven't done that. So I'm doing something. I'm continuing to do something, because it's when you don't celebrate that you did something, or you at least got 1 like, meaning if you're maybe in outside sales, maybe you do cold calls and you have to see 50 people a week that are people that you don't even know, you never met them, and you got to knock on 50 doors. And let's say you've done it week after week, and we're on week 5 times 5, that's 250 people that you've contacted and have received no sale back. So do you celebrate that you've talked to 250 people, or do you just be like, I didn't sell anything? You celebrate that you talked to 250 people, right? And after talking to 250 people, you get really good at the no. Okay, cool. Move on. The next, you're just strengthening your muscle of being able to understand that that person is just not your sale today and move on. It doesn't have anything to do with you personally. Just like my content didn't get a like. Okay. It wasn't me, Brooke, personally. They don't like. Maybe they're busy, or maybe they meant to push it, or maybe they didn't see it, or maybe their boss walked in and they're like, oh shit, I shouldn't be on my phone. Like, it could be so many things. Yet we make it into something else, and we make it about us not being good enough. So celebrate small wins, because your small wins, your small tasks, the actions, like I said, taking the action in spite of fear, that's a win. Okay. So you celebrate these little wins, even if it's not a milestone. Recognize that you're making effort and progress, because even if it isn't the exact payoff you want, you're getting something back. You're either getting stronger and better, or you're realizing that, like, this is not my audience. I need to shift in my case. So just remember, you gamble, you put 20 bucks in a machine, and you win right away. You want that feeling every time you gamble then, right? We know what you want, but you have to remember that every time you gamble may not be that time that you get the payoff just by sticking 20 bucks in the slot. So patience. And practicing patience brings me to this: gratitude and reflection. Gratitude on your achievements, or reflecting on your achievements, as well as the challenges that you overcome, which I just mentioned, it cultivates gratitude and bolsters your self-worth. It really does remind you every day of your resilience and self-worth and growth. Because most of you that know me know that I feel like I sold my yoga business prematurely, and that I did it out of fear of failing, and I did. For a while, I beat myself up about that, but it really was an achievement. It was an achievement because I was able to sell a business, and it was an achievement because that business is still open, and I'm proud of that. That's 10 years after I opened it. And I'm celebrating that because it was a challenge I overcame. But then it circled back, and I realized that I was grateful for the experience of feeling so strongly afraid of failing that I made that big decision. Because in hindsight, I see that I should really examine my fear of failure as an underlying thing behind my actions. Because I sold, like, to put it into context for you, my 15-year-old son at the time, well, he was 16 then, we were having some very hard times in our relationship because he had, taken a path with drugs, and we had struggles in our relationship, and I was trying to save his life. But even despite the fact that he was high and cared more about drugs than school or anything else that mattered, when I told him I sold the yoga studio, he looked at me and he said, why? That was your dream. Even a 16-year-old that was high, completely disconnected from the world around him, in my eyes, that's what I saw. And I was scared. I was afraid that I couldn't help him had I kept my yoga studio, because that was part of it. I had 2 kids. Knew that I was selling my dream. He had that aha moment of why? And I said, because I don't know how I'm going to do it and take care of you and your brother and make enough money to pay the bills. I don't know how I'm going to do it, is the first signal of fear, but also reflection. So had I been practicing gratitude and reflection like I had been, I could have found how I could have done it, because the fear was so big that I couldn't look at other ways, right? But when you look at what you've done, so if had I looked at how far I had come in 4 years versus where I needed to go, because that's a scary place. I haven't been there yet. I don't know anything about that place, but I know where I've been and I know what I've done and I know what I can do and I know what I couldn't do. I know what I've tried at and I know what I failed at and I know what I could learn. Wow. Examining just that with a little self-reflection. Well, I could learn how to do something else. I could learn how to scale a business and grow. Maybe I would have overcome the fear, right? So through these lessons of navigating how complex like self-worth and balance is, and understanding that both are very fluid concepts, which require so much attention to your own thoughts, which means it requires a lot of self-awareness, a lot of compassion, and a complete willingness to embrace your own imperfections. And when you implement these insights, you'll gradually start to feel more free from the feeling of not good enough and get yourself in to cultivate a healthier and more sustainable way of being and a way of ebbing and flowing and interweaving balance in your life. Because like I said, it's going to go this way and then it's going to go that way. And let's go this way, going to go this way and then that way. So we think of balance as something that's achievable and like a constant state of affairs, like 2 + 2 = 4. It's not like that. It's 2 + 2 = 4, but sometimes I like 5. Next module. So here's what I think I'd like to love to do. Today was our third, right, module, and we still have 4, and then we have a celebration. So I'd love to do our next live Zoom. I'm looking at the calendar, sorry guys. And I would like to do that on Monday, the 11th. And we're going to do it at 11 a.m. Again, we're going to have the recording. And this next module is about empowered self-love and how putting others first is not necessarily the most healthy and best way for us to show love to other people. And I'll send our homework today, but our very first thing that I want you to do right now, we're going to stop this module with a visualization. And I'm just going to ask you to close your eyes for 3 minutes. I'm going to ask you to find a quiet space. If you need to do this part of the call later because you're doing something else, like I hope you're not driving, but if you are and you can't close your eyes, please do not do that. But I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and I'm going to ask you to do some visualizations, okay? And so that you can kind of entertain the idea of how you could achieve a little bit of balance, even though you're overwhelmed, okay? So close your eyes. And I want you to think about a feeling of when you know that like life is going nuts and you're just losing your shit because you committed to stuff you didn't want to do. Now you have to do it. And then, of course, it never fails that somebody called you with a problem and it's not really your problem, but you're the one that's going to fix it because you're the only one that could fix it, even though you can't really fix it. And that's the feeling that you have. You're just like, oh, I want out of this situation. I wish I could just complete my work and get this done. And so I could go home and have my dinner and see my family and not have this on my plate. You know that feeling, right? Okay. So you feel that way. I want you to just sit down and close your eyes. I want you to take a big breath in through your nose. I want you to open your mouth and let it out. Okay. And now your breath should be in and out from your nose. And I want you to imagine that you have all of that shit up in the air and you threw it in the air and it got stuck in the air. All of them are like balls and they're all labeled up in the air. And then I want you to tell yourself, all I'm simply going to do is put all of this into a bucket. Each one of these balls in the air is going to go into a bucket, and they're going to go into a bucket of high and low priority. They're going to go into a bucket of urgent or not urgent. I have 4 buckets. I'm just going to organize everything into these buckets. And after I organize everything into these buckets, I'm going to deal with one bucket first. And that bucket is going to be urgent and high priority. I'm going to deal with one bucket first. And what I can achieve, I will achieve. And what I can't, I can take some action to get me closer to that achievement. I can take one small action. Knowing that you are able to get into control of doing the high priority and very urgent things that you must do immediately will help you understand that there will be time or an opportunity for you to achieve the other things, but these are the actions you're taking now and only now. You are not under the gun with the other things because they went into a different bucket. The bucket of lower priority and not urgent, or the bucket of urgent but not high priority. I am in control. I know what I need to do. Okay, that's going to be what we do with all these things bumping up in the air. All your little balls, they can be put into the buckets, and then you're going to deal with one bucket at a time. So go out there, have a great day. Remember that you only have to deal with one bucket at a time. I am rooting for you, and I cannot wait to see you on Monday. Oh, one more thing. We are going to finalize the challenge on Thursday, the 14th, which is 22 days. It's actually 21, but it's actually 3 weeks, but 22 days. Okay. So we're going to do that on the 21st, or excuse me, the 14th. And we're going to do that one we can do that one at 9 a.m. How do we like that? Okay. So you'll be getting your homework today. And then of course, watch your daily emails, send your questions. I love hearing from all of you, and go make it a Reconnector day.